The cantina on Station Epsilon 7 smelled of recycled air and exotic spices from a dozen different worlds. Commander Sarah Chen sat with her crew at a corner table, their weathered flight jackets marking them as veterans of the Terran Defense Force. The war had ended 3 years ago, but the scars remained, some visible, others buried deep. Their waitress approached with practiced grace, her iridescent scales catching the dim light. She was young for a Draken, perhaps barely into her second century. Her wings were folded neatly against her back, and her golden eyes held a curious warmth that seemed out of place in this grimy station. "What can I get you?" she asked, her translator rendering her speech in perfect standard. "Whiskey. Earth brand if you have it," Chen said, not looking up from her datapad. "Coming right up." The Draken paused, her gaze lingering on the patch on Chen's jacket, the emblem of the TDF's 47th Strike Squadron. "That's a Valkyrie-class patrol ship, isn't it?" Lieutenant Marcus Webb glanced up surprised. "Most civilians couldn't tell one military vessel from another." "Yeah, how'd you know?" The waitress's expression shifted, something wistful crossing her reptilian features. "My father has a ship like yours." "Well, it's been in our family's hangar for years now." The table fell silent. Chen looked up sharply, her scarred hand stilling on the datapad. "Your father has a Valkyrie?" That's not possible. Those ships were only issued to TDF personnel." "I know," the waitress said softly. "He was given it during the war." Sergeant Ko Lin, the team's navigator, leaned forward. Wait. You're saying a human gave a Draken a military vessel? During the human-Draken conflict?" The young Draken nodded slowly. "His name is Vex Thrall. He was a fighter pilot in the Draken Imperial Fleet. 23 years ago, his squadron engaged yours near the Arcturus belt." She paused, her tail curling nervously. "The battle went badly for both sides. His ship was hit, life support failing, engines dead. He was drifting into a debris field." Chen's jaw tightened. She remembered Arcturus. Everyone did. It was the bloodiest engagement of the entire war. "A human ship picked up his distress beacon," the waitress continued. "Instead of leaving him to die or finishing him off, they pulled him aboard. Patched him up. Kept him alive." "Standard protocol for POWs," Webb muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. They all knew that in the chaos of Arcturus, protocol had been the first casualty. "It wasn't protocol," the waitress insisted. "The human ship, the Perseverance, was crippled. They were barely holding together themselves. They had wounded of their own, limited supplies, and they were still days from any friendly port." Her golden eyes shimmered, but their captain made a choice. She said if they were going to die out there, they'd die as something better than killers. The table had gone completely still. Chen felt ice spreading through her chest. "Perseverance. You know it?" "I commanded it." Chen's voice was barely a whisper. "I was the captain." The datapad slipped from her fingers, clattering on the table. The other veterans stared at their commander, then at the Draken waitress whose eyes had gone wide with shock. You're Captain Chen?" "Commander now, retired." Chen stood slowly as if in a trance. "Your father, Vex Thrall. Red markings on his scales? Scar across his left eye?" "Yes, you remember him?" Chen laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. "Remember him? We spent 6 days together in that tin can, sharing rations and swapping stories while we waited for rescue. He taught me a Draken prayer for the dead. We said it for every name on both our crews." She pressed her palms against the table. "When the rescue ships finally arrived, I knew he'd be taken as a POW, interrogated, maybe executed. So I did something incredibly stupid." The waitress leaned in, breathless. "I gave him an escape pod and programmed it with coordinates to neutral space. But that wasn't enough. He'd never make it past the patrols without being hunted down. So I transferred my patrol ship's command codes to him, made it look like a salvage operation. A Draken pilot flying a damaged but functional Valkyrie. He could get through the lines." "You committed treason," Ko Lin breathed. "I saved a life," Chen corrected. "The war took enough from all of us. I wasn't going to let it take a decent man just because he'd been born on the wrong side of a line someone drew in space." The waitress's claws trembled as she pulled out a small hollow projector. An image flickered to life, an older Draken, his scales dulled with age but his eyes still bright. He stood before a pristine Valkyrie-class ship in what looked like a private hangar. "He keeps it maintained perfectly," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Every day he tells me about the human captain who chose mercy over vengeance, who showed him that honor wasn't species-specific. Tears, actual tears, rolled down her scaled cheeks. You're his hero, Commander Chen. You're why I'm here working to build bridges between our peoples. You're why he dedicated his life to peace advocacy after the war. Chen felt her own eyes burning. 23 years. She'd never known if Vexthrall had survived, never dared to search, afraid of what she might find. He's alive, she whispered. He made it, the waitress confirmed. And he named me Sarah after you.
I'm Sarah Vexthrall. The cantina seemed to fade away.
Webb was wiping his eyes. Colin had her hand over her mouth. Chen reached out, and the young Draken, this living bridge between two former enemies, took it. Would you? Sarah hesitated. Would you like to see him? He's on the lower levels at a conference. I could take you. Chen looked at her crew, saw the same answer in all their faces, and smiled, the first genuine smile in years. I'd like that very much. As they left the cantina together, the old soldiers and the dragon waitress, no one noticed the way the other patrons watched them go. But word would spread as it always did. A story of humanity's stubborn refusal to let hatred have the final word. A story of mercy given when it cost everything. And a life saved that had rippled forward to touch countless others. It was the kind of story that made the galaxy shake its head in wonder and whisper those 3 letters with new understanding. HFY. Not because humans were the strongest or the smartest, but because sometimes when it mattered most they chose to be kind.